We just got some massive updates on the future of Fallout 76. Bethesda just shared a ton of details, not only on the next major update coming in just a couple of weeks now, but also a look much further ahead at some of the exclusive events coming later in 2024. And as of right now, 2024 is shaping up to be the most active year for Fallout 76 ever. In just a couple of weeks on September 3rd, Milepost 0 will be dropping. Right now, it's almost entirely playable on the public test server, and this is going to be a big update. Fundamental changes are coming to the game, and it's going to make the game far more enjoyable for a ton of you. And even as we look ahead at some of the future content coming a bit further down the line, I have found some data mines that add some very important pieces of context as to what exactly is on the horizon. And if you subscribe from the link on this post, I may get a commission. But first, I gotta ask, do you like ads? Well, today's video sponsor, YouTube Premium. You can go completely ad-free and even get 2 months free. I've been using YouTube Premium since it came out, and while watching videos ad-free is incredible, it isn't even my favorite feature. YouTube Premium lets you download videos for offline playing, which is pretty much how I've spent every plane ride for the last 4 years. Never worry about crappy movie choices again. And let's be honest, many of you are already spending more time on YouTube than any other streaming platform. So you'll love features like background play so you can browse and watch at the same time. And let's be honest, we all need this, RIP to our attention spans. Or if you're on the go, you'll have the ability to pick up videos right where you left off on other devices to continue watching. And even if all of that wasn't enough, you are still seriously helping out other creators. YouTube Premium pays well. It accounted for 10% of my overall YouTube revenue last year, and in 2024, it's trending even higher. And since you watched this video, I'll even hook you up. Sign up now using my affiliate link to get a 2-month free trial of YouTube Premium, but act fast because this won't last forever. One of the core features coming with Milepost 0 is Caravaning, and this has the potential to be absolutely amazing. You'll be introduced to Caravaning via a short quest, where you'll discover a Blue Ridge caravan that was ambushed by super mutants. We can grab that caravan supply and take it back to Milepost 0, a newly formed Blue Ridge caravan spot right here in Shenandoah Valley. The actual quest is a pretty short introduction to the Caravaning feature. You'll find a new character who just started their own Blue Ridge chapter, but due to some of the ongoing weather issues in the region, and of course this is referencing the most recently added Skyline Valley questline. I won't spoil what happens if you haven't played it, but the weather in this area is changed as a result of that questline, which is now the direct justification for us getting involved in this new Caravaning feature. So it's a pretty cool way to have everything come full circle here. And the quest itself will end here, as we do have a 500 cap buy-in to really unlock the new Caravaning feature. But after that, you'll be able to send out your own caravans in Fallout 76, and the way this will work is pretty interesting. You basically are buying in to run a portion of this caravan company for yourself. You'll largely just be guarding the caravans as they're out there. So you'll have options to select from small, medium, or even large caravans. And then in Skyline Valley, you'll be guiding that caravan along its route as various obstacles pop up against you. The larger the cargo size you chose, the better the rewards you'll get. There's a new caravan supply currency implemented with this one. But of course, the larger the load, the more difficult the route will be, as many enemies will be popping up, and your task is to keep this Brahmin alive. And I would say the overall gameplay of this new Caravaning feature is pretty similar to how it worked in another event known as Free Range. But as opposed to Free Range, while Caravaning, you only have one Brahmin to protect, thank God. The core of this is pretty straightforward. You're running along the road next to a Brahmin. You could make it hurry so it'll kind of sprint forward slightly. But other than that, just keep the Brahmin alive and you'll win. But this does have some really nice social aspects to it as well. Once a caravan is launched, it'll alert the entire server, just like a public event. So oftentimes, other players will jump in and help you protect that caravan, able to earn some rewards for themselves. And this can definitely get pretty intense. As you follow your route, you'll come against all sorts of enemies from Fallout 76. And when you have larger loads, this can pose a fairly significant threat. The caravan HP can drop very quickly, and plenty of times 10 plus enemies will launch an attack on you all at the same time. If you're playing this with the largest caravan loads and solo, it could definitely get pretty difficult to actually keep your caravan alive. But on the flip side, if you have some of these larger attacks while a bunch of higher level players are all participating, it becomes really fun because you all actively have to work together to keep that Brahmin alive on its route. At points while caravaning, it could definitely be a bit of a running simulator. You'll have minutes go by where you're just running by this caravan side, and I wouldn't hate to see a bit more activity on some routes, but this honestly might be a server stability concern, and perhaps that's why you're not seeing a bit more. And in beyond just attacks from various enemies from Fallout 76, Bethesda also implemented a fair number of random encounters and random events along these routes. So the caravan can get caught up in some obstacles that you'll need to clear out. That's one of the more common ones, but there are more rare ones as well, like finding bodies that have more supplies, a Mr. Trick-or-Treat NPC you can interact with, and a bunch more. It's not all just combat, there are definitely some oddities you could run into while caravaning, and they do a good job at making the feature feel entertaining even after doing several caravans in a row. If your Brahmin does survive all the way to the end, you'll be able to deposit your cargo and earn some new caravan supply, which is going to be the new currency associated with this feature. After this, you are able to immediately run more caravans, but it'll come at a cost. Basically, there's going to be a bit of a cooldown for the free or basic runs, but after you do one of those, you can immediately just keep running caravans, but it'll cost caps for insurance, with the largest load oftentimes costing over 1,000 caps to run, which can get very expensive very quickly. So this may end up becoming a nice cap sink for higher level players, but you can also take those newly earned caravan supplies back to your milepost 0 to unlock quite a few different things. Through new employees, which can be hired, a Brahmin handler who will sell even further upgrades for the Brahmin, so you can change their food to improve various stats like their speed, health regen, or others. There's a decorator you can hire to improve the state of milepost 0, although all of those changes are purely cosmetic as far as I can tell. And overall, I found this core feature to be a ton of fun, but as of right now, it definitely has some glaring problems. The actual process of caravaning can be a really enjoyable experience when you get a few players here and you're all just organically walking around this newly added region of Appalachia, because Shenandoah was only just added with the past update, and that's where this caravaning will be taking place, which is just cool. I'm happy they're sticking around in this region, and now you'll have even more players natively interacting with it, and the social aspect is just fun. It's fun to play Fallout 76 with other strangers. And if anything, I wouldn't even mind there being a even higher difficulty or larger load you can take that perhaps has an even more distinct alert, so it'll be a true boss fight level challenge during the caravan, but perhaps the entire server gets to find out about this so everyone can participate for even better rewards. But sadly, as fun as this is from a gameplay perspective, the major problems do come on the reward side. Outside of the Brahmin Tamer, you can also unlock other new vendors who will sell you new cosmetics and a new weapon for caps. After unlocking and increasing the rank of the ammo vendor, because yes, you can increase the vendor's ranks to unlock even more options from them that you purchase, but after increasing their rank, you'll get a short quest to unlock this new laser rifle, known as the Vault 63 Laser Carbine. And this vendor will even sell you mods for this new weapon. We'll talk more about that weapon in a moment though. But the issue here is, after you unlock each of these various vendors and upgrade them to gain access to their full stock of new items, there's literally no point to continuing to run caravans, because the items you buy from these vendors are sold to you in caps. So like, there's 3 vendors and they cost 150 supply each, and then you have to upgrade them for another 100 supply. But then once you have all of them fully upgraded, you don't really need supply for anything. And even beyond that, there's really no point to continue running caravans. It's not like you'll continue unlocking new features, you'll just be getting supply to upgrade caravans to make them go faster. But there isn't actually a point in going any faster because you already unlocked all the things you need to unlock. So if you're more of a gameplay focused player, not too worried about cosmetics, which I definitely am, this feature is going to run out of uses very quickly. The vast majority of the rewards here are either going to be new outfits or new camp items. And there is this weird dynamic where some of the top tier caravan upgrades, like to make your caravans go way faster, cost 500 supply. But if you have 500 supply, you can basically unlock all of the vendors already, so there's not really a point to ever buying some of these upgrades. But okay, those issues aside, there are also just the social aspect. It's fun to play with other players and protect these caravans. Except unfortunately, in the most recent PTS update, there have been some major nerfs here as well, because while you do earn 50, 25, or 10 supply for running the large, medium, or small caravans, you only actually earn 5, 3, or 1 supply for being a guest or helping out somebody else's caravan. So if you go through this fairly strenuous process that could take 20 minutes at points to guard somebody else's large caravan, and yeah, you'll use a fair amount of resources, there might be a ton of enemies on this route, in the end, you'll only actually get 5 supply, which just doesn't really feel worth it at all. And when you're doing some of these smaller caravans, you'll only get 1 supply in the end, which is basically irrelevant when almost every unlockable costs 50 supply or more. You'd have to do this 50 times to unlock something. So I have to imagine shortly after this feature does release, a lot of people will not be joining these caravans because they'll quickly realize, oh yeah, it's just not really worth it. Hopefully we see these values adjusted somewhat. It definitely is a feature with a ton of promise, but it definitely needs some further refinements, specifically specifically on the reward side. This could really be a great social event that'll consistently be in the background for when you want to play with other people, but it just doesn't really make sense to contribute to this one long term. Once you unlock some of those vendors, you could kind of just ignore caravaning outright. Although, the new weapon you can unlock from this one is fantastic, that with the Vault 63 laser carbine. This weapon will have a variety of attachments, but it'll also introduce a unique overheating mechanic that'll take advantage of. So unlike in other games, this weapon doesn't stop firing when you start overheating with it, but instead it'll actually deal more damage the higher your heat. So you can almost think of this like an LMG laser weapon. You want that heat to be at maximum quantity, and you'll be dealing tons of damage per shot. Actually, a bit of a ridiculous amount of damage per shot. And with the correct legendary effects, this can easily be the most powerful laser weapon in the game. Further balance passes may come, considering how powerful this is right now, so I don't want to exclaim about it too much before we actually get to release. But yeah, right now on paper, this thing is incredibly powerful and definitely worth jumping in caravaning just to unlock this. But Milepost Zero may also have you adventuring around Appalachia a bit more as well to check out some best builds. This is another really cool new feature where users can submit their camps to be featured as a best build, and these will just pop up on servers at random. So if you look around the map, you'll find some camp icons that will stick out a bit more. This is a best build. That player isn't on your server right now, but you can still fast travel to that camp and check it out in all its glory, as oftentimes these are really cool camp designs, and they'll even cycle out every hour, so you'll get a constant flow of fresh and interesting camps to check out. Exploring on my server, I found a diner stop. It had a truck right outside, along with a bunch of arcade games like you'd expect, but also a full suite of services on the inside. Another really cool literal camp build, as in people camping, built around the Skyline Valley lookout, which thematically really nailed things, and of course a bunch more. These are just random builds I found while adventuring on my server, and you even have the option to like the build, which is a nice touch. A feature like this finally getting added is huge. Despite Fallout 76 being an MMO in some senses, the individual servers themselves don't really hold a ton of people. Best Builds is a fantastic feature to expose you to far more of the community-made content, and I really love everything about this. I hope we see even further expansions of features like this in the future. The Milepost Zero update will also contain a massive combat rebalance. Many weapons are getting damage changes, and perhaps even more importantly, the stats and resistances of many creatures in the world are also reworked here. Some creatures will have even more defined roles, being tankier against certain damage types, but notably weaker against other types of damage. And then beyond that, your damage output will be adjusted. If you're using poison or fire for damage over time, you'll almost certainly notice a change after this update. One of the biggest aspects of this is when it comes to boss fights, as bosses have been fundamentally reworked to no longer have damage mitigation. Previously, Fallout 76 bosses would simply ignore some of the incoming damage to survive longer, but now instead that is gone, and the bosses will have a massive health pool, but damage will deal fully. So for lots of players, things will feel about the same, but if you're using a critical or damage over time build, this will be a pretty big nerf, especially in boss fights, and just in general, some of these boss fights will likely be lasting a bit longer as a result of these changes. The combat rebalance has been gradually changing, and this is a massive one, so I'll be diving a lot deeper as this actually comes out, because I don't want to make a full video on it and then it actually get edited even further. But just know for now that some things will definitely be weaker in this next update. It's not like it's buffs all around the board, and really only a few select items are getting notable or major buffs here. But you may also get stronger in the next Fallout 76 update, as legendary crafting is also coming this September. The ability for us to manually swap around legendary effects on items is coming, and that's actually pretty massive. Fallout 76's endgame is very much so about finding that god roll legendary to be relevant in combat and synergize with your build, and legendary crafting may make it so you can get that god roll even faster than ever before. This is another feature that has gone through several renditions on the PTS, so things may change by the time of release, but currently the way legendary crafting works is actually pretty simple. You can individually edit the mods on most of your legendary weapons in the game as long as they're not unique, so you could just go to the 1, 2, or 3 star and just swap out whatever is there for something else. But first you'll need to have that mod, and the way you'll learn legendary mods or just get a few in your inventory is by scrapping legendary weapons. And two things could happen as you scrap a legendary weapon. There is a 1% chance that you can learn the plans for one of the legendary mods on that weapon. So if it's a 3 star, you have a 1% chance to learn one of those 3 star effects, but you can never learn more than one of those 3 star effects. After learning that plan, you could head over to a Tinkerer's Workbench and craft the mod box itself, which will contain the legendary. Crafting this will cost some legendary modules, which you'll need to purchase from the purveyor, and with some of the legendary effects, it'll also cost an item like a bobblehead or a magazine. Obviously, this means you'll be spending a lot more more legendary modules going forward, and as such, many public events will rework to now give you legendary modules as a reward. But there's also a completely different system. Alternatively, you can just actually get a single version of that legendary mod, because there is also a 1.5% chance to get any of the individual mods in that weapon itself. You don't learn how to craft it, instead you just get one legendary mod and you could go apply that to a weapon. And when you try to apply a legendary mod to a weapon, it'll cost you some script to attach it. And one of the pretty big features of this is these mod boxes that you could earn via scrapping are fully tradable. So those legendary bloodied mods are likely going to be incredibly valuable in the 48 to 72 hours after this update does ship, and probably for a while thereafter. And honestly, it's a fairly simple system. Scrap legendary weapons to earn legendary mods, whether that be a plan or just a raw form of them that you could then apply to other weapons to enhance them even further. As it exists right now, this will definitely take some time, particularly learning the plans can be a massive time dump, but once unlocked, it'll stay with you forever. And for some of those stronger effects like bloodied, that of course can be massive. You'll just be able to craft that freely going forward. You of course need to have enough modules and whatever other item, but that seems like the lesser of the parts. And overall, I definitely think this is an upgrade over what we have right now. It'll give you a much clearer path to getting that specific type of legendary, which I think is a great and very welcome addition to the game. Although, even in addition to all of that, which is coming on the September 3rd update, we also gotta look even further into the future of Fallout 76 thanks to QuakeCon, as we now have a pretty nice schedule layout. We know Milepost 0, including most of the features I just talked about, is dropping on September 3rd. The new playable Ghoul class will be coming early into 2025, but right in the middle, in December, there's going to be another new update with Gleaming Depths. And this is shaping up to look pretty special. We had a short teaser during QuakeCon 2024, as this is basically going to be a Vault Raid-esque system, except this time around, it's going to be a Fissure raid. You can see some brave adventurers going deeper into an ultra-site fissure. Several new enemies appear, including what looks like some kind of new serpent boss tier enemy, and that's really it. The trailer itself was super short, a definite tease of what's to come. We'll likely be learning a lot more at Gamescom 2024 just next week, but we've also learned a bit more from some of the recent data mines. Right off the bat, the entrance to this new raid is already in-game. You can find it in the Ash Heap region as the southernmost fissure site, which has a newly edited entrance. Via some data mines from the Data Miners Discord, these new raids have been linked to some Enclave research around fissure sites, so perhaps there'll be some kind of an introductory questline having to do with the Enclave. And in the more recent PTS updates, there have also been several new entries around 4-star legendary items, including 4-star legendary support with much of the new legendary crafting system. That has led many to believe that perhaps these new fissure raids will be the avenue to unlocking 4-star items in Fallout 76. Like perhaps after doing this raid, you'll unlock something that'll give you access to 4 stars in the future. And even a new public team for these raids was found in the files. During the QuakeCon stream, they described tougher boss fights overall, and it seems like that's what this new raid will entail. So it basically seems like Fallout 76 is getting new raids that'll be one of the toughest events in the game, but truly made for endgame players, and this all will potentially open up access to the best weapons in the game if it does give you access to 4-star legendary, which of course will be better than the 3-star alternatives. And honestly, this all sounds incredibly exciting to me. Vault raids were a past feature that were a ton of fun, but had massive issues with lag, which basically took away all of that fun and made it borderline unplayable. Assuming the instancing tech is now there, and they can get the responsiveness of this new raid down, it could end up being a very enjoyable piece of endgame content for Fallout 76. But even still, that wasn't all. A lot of what we talked about in this video was around social or online features for Fallout 76, and yeah, that makes sense. We got a lot of story content through the first half of 2024, but during QuakeCon, they also mentioned that having more impactful story choices as a part of the Fallout 76 questline is being discussed right now, which also feels pretty massive. One of the biggest issues with Fallout 76's story content is, while it does feel a ton like Fallout, it lacks the branching paths of those single-player Fallout games, but that may end up changing in the future. If we get some of these questlines with even more difficult choices and bigger consequences from our actions, Fallout 76 could end up appealing to even more of those single-player Fallout fans. So overall, I'm incredibly excited for the future of Fallout 76. And even if nothing I talked about in this video specifically excites you, it seems pretty clear that both Microsoft and Bethesda are investing more into this game, which is exciting on a broad level. We're getting a ton of content as of late, and as of right now, 2024 is shaping up to be the most content-rich year in Fallout 76's history. But if you are looking for more, check out this video, because you can now play a recreated version of Fallout 1 in Fallout 4's engine, and it is pretty fantastic.